Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 3, Chapter 12. The load was complete, and Vanka, jumping down, took his gentle, fat horse by the bridle and joined the file of talyegas going to the village. The Baba threw her rake on the load and with firm step joined the other women who in a group followed the carts. The Babawee, with rakes on their shoulders and dressed in bright-colored petticoats, began to sing in loud, happy voices. One wild, untrained voice would intone the folk song, and then 50 other young, fresh, and powerful voices would take it up and repeat it to the end. The Babawee, singing their piesna, passed by Levnin, and it seemed to him as he sat comfortably on his hayrick that they were like a cloud, big with tumultuous joy, ready to overwhelm him and carry him off, together with his hay and the other hayricks and the wagons. As he heard the rhythm of his wild song, with its accompaniment of whistles and shrill cries, the prairie, the faraway fields, all things seemed to him to be filled with a strange, weird life and animation. And this gaiety filled him with envy. He would have liked to take part, but he could not thus express his joy of living, and he was obliged to lie still and look and listen. When the throng had passed out of sight, he was seized with a sense of his loneliness, of his physical indolence, of the hostility which existed between him and his life that he saw. All of these moujiks, even those who had quarreled with him about the hay, or those whom he had injured if their intention was not to cheat him, saluted him gaily as they passed, and showed no anger for what he had done, or any remorse, or even remembrance that they had tried to defraud him. All was swallowed up and forgotten in this sea of joyous universal labor. God gave the day. God gave the strength. And the day and the strength consecrated the labor and gave their own reward. For whom the work? Who would enjoy the work? These questions were secondary and of no account. Levin had often looked with interest at this life, had often been tempted to become one with the people, living their lives. But today the impression of what he had seen in the bearing of Vanka Parmenov towards his young wife gave him, for the first time, a clear and definite desire to exchange the burdensome, idle, artificial, selfish existence which he led for the laborious, simple, pure, and delightful life of the peasantry. The Starik, who had been sitting with him, had already gone home. The people were scattered. The neighbors had gone home, but those who lived at a distance were preparing to spend the night on the prairie and getting ready for supper. Levin, without being seen, still lay on the hay, looking, listening, and thinking. And the peasantry gathered on the prairie scarcely slept throughout the short summer night. At first there were gay gossip and laughter while everybody was eating, then followed songs and jests. All the long, laborious day had left no trace upon them, except of its happiness. Just before the dawn there was silence everywhere. Nothing could be heard but the nocturnal sounds of the frogs croaking in the marsh, and the horses whinnying as they waited for the coming morning. Coming to himself, Levin stood up on the hayrick, and coming and looking at the stars, saw that the night had gone. "No, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this?" he asked himself, trying to give a shape to the thoughts and feelings that had accompanied him during this short night. These thoughts and feelings had run in 3 separate directions. First, it seemed to him that he must renounce his former way of living, which was useful neither to himself nor to anybody else. In comparison to it, the new life seemed to him simple and attractive. The second thought especially referred to the new life which he longed to lead. To renounce his useless intellectual culture was easy, especially when the simplicity and purity of his future life was so likely, as he thought, to restore him to calmness and quietude of mind. The third line of thought brought him to the question how he should effect the transition from the old life to the new, and in this regard there was nothing clear that presented itself to his mind. I must have a wife. I must engage in work, and not solitary work. Shall I sell Pokrovsky, buy land, join the commune, marry a peasant woman? How can I do all this? He asked himself, and no answer came. However, he went on his self-communings. I've not slept all night, and my ideas are not very clear. I shall reduce them to order by and by. One thing is certain. The night settled my fate. All my former dreams of family existence were rubbish. But all this is vastly simpler and better. How lovely, he thought as he gazed at the delicate rosy clouds, colored like mother of pearl, which floated in the sky above him. How charming everything has been this lovely night. And when did that shell have time to form? I've been looking this long time at the sky, and only 2 bright streaks were to be seen. Thus without my knowing it, my views about life have been changed. He left the prairie and walked along the highway towards the village. A cool breeze began to blow. At this moment, just before the dawn, everything took on a gray and melancholy tint, as if to bring out the stronger relief, the perfect triumph of light over darkness. Levin shivered with chill. He walked fast, looking at the ground. Who's that coming? He asked himself, hearing the sound of bells. He raised his head. About 40 steps from him he saw, coming towards him on the highway, a traveling carriage drawn by 4 horses. The horses, to avoid the ruts, pressed close against the pole, but the skillful yamschik, seated on one side of the box, drove so well that the wheels kept only on the smooth surface of the road. Levin was so interested in this that he looked only at the carriage and forgot about the occupants. In one corner of the carriage an elderly lady was asleep, and by the window sat a young girl, only just awake, holding with both hands the ribbons of her white bonnet. Serene and thoughtful, filled with a lofty, complex life which Levin could not understand, she was gazing beyond him at the glow of the morning sky. At the very instant that this vision flashed by him, he caught a glimpse of her frank eyes. He recognized her, and a gleam of joy, mingled with wonder, shone upon her face. He could not be mistaken. Only she in all the world could have such eyes. In all the world there was but one being who could condense for him all the light and meaning of life. It was she. It was Kitty. He judged that she was on her way from the railway station to Yergoshovo, and all the thoughts that had occupied Levin through his sleepless night, all the resolutions he had made, vanished in a twinkling. Horror seized him as he remembered his resolution of marrying a Krestyanka. In that carriage which flashed by him on the other side of the road and disappeared was the only possible answer to his life's enigma, which had tormented and puzzled him so long. She was now out of sight. The rumble of the wheels had ceased, and scarcely could he hear the bells. The barking of the dogs told him that the carriage was passing through the village, and now there remained only the lonely prairies, the distant village, and himself, an alien and a stranger to everything, walking solitary on the deserted highway. He looked at the sky, hoping to find there still the seashell cloud which he had admired, and which personified for him the movement of his thoughts and feelings during the night. But he could find nothing that resembled the pearl-like hues. There, at immeasurable heights, that mysterious change had already taken place. There was no sign of the seashell, but in its place there extended over the whole level extent of the heavens a tapestry of cirrus clouds sweeping on and sweeping on. The sky was growing blue and luminous, and with tenderness and less of mystery it answered his questioning look. No, he said to himself. However good this simple and laborious life may be, I cannot bring myself to it. I love her.